The planet Krilthar was alive with tension. Its twin suns burned brightly in the sky, casting long shadows across the training grounds where warriors practiced every conceivable combat technique. Steel clashed against steel. Fire roared from elemental machines. The royal palace loomed over it all, a fortress of polished stone and sharp towers, where the Princess Lysera prepared for the ancient marriage ritual that had been part of Kriltharian culture for centuries. The marriage contract demanded a warrior, strong, brave, and skilled. Whoever stood beside Lysera during the ceremony had to survive the trials and prove their worth. Failure was not an option. Every neighboring planet and allied species sent their best combatants. Krilthar's advisors had already shortlisted champions, towering soldiers with iron muscles, veteran generals, and battle-hardened mercenaries. These were individuals who could face fire, beasts, and the deadliest traps the ritual demanded. But somewhere, far from the clashing of weapons and the roar of training arenas, a human named Aaron was quietly shelving scrolls in a library on Earth. He wore round glasses that kept slipping down his nose and a simple uniform that smelled faintly of old books. He moved slowly, deliberately, arranging manuscripts and taking careful notes in his leather-bound notebook. He had never held a weapon heavier than a writing quill, let alone a sword or blaster. Then, without warning, everything changed. A message arrived from an Interstellar Alliance office. Humanity had been asked to send a representative to the Kriltharian marriage ceremony. Aaron, the human librarian, was selected. Not a soldier, not a diplomat, but a librarian. A man who spent his days reading, cataloging, and dusting off ancient tomes. Aaron blinked in disbelief. They want me? Me? He looked at his small desk, at the stacks of books around him, and shook his head. I can't fight anyone. I can't even run very fast. The Alliance officer, speaking through a holographic screen, nodded gravely. You are aware, Mr. Aaron, that this is not a trivial matter. The contract requires a warrior and Krilthar is strict. But the selection has been finalized. You will travel immediately. Aaron sighed and stuffed his notebook into his bag. He had no time to argue, no time to protest. Within hours he was aboard a small shuttle, leaving Earth behind. The stars streaked past him as the ship raced toward Krilthar, a planet he had only ever read about in Alliance records. The librarian felt a mix of awe, fear, and confusion. What had he done to deserve this? How could someone like him survive on a planet where the strong thrived and the weak were cast aside? When Aaron arrived, the first thing he noticed was the training grounds. Massive creatures with scales as thick as stone roamed freely, testing young warriors. Soldiers with multi-limbed exosuits practiced combat drills that made his head spin. Fire and plasma lit the sky as warriors tested weapons he had only read about in books. The air smelled of ozone and burning metal, and the sound was deafening. A Kriltharian official greeted him, tall and armored, with sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through his very being. You are the human? The official asked, voice booming. You are supposed to be a warrior. This is no place for a weakling. Aaron swallowed hard. I'm a librarian, he admitted. I'm not trained in combat. The official's eyes narrowed. A librarian? You mean to say that humanity sent a man who catalogs texts instead of a soldier? Incredible. Do not embarrass your species. Aaron nodded, nervously clutching his notebook. He was not sure what he was supposed to do, but he knew he could not retreat now. There was no turning back. Princess Lysera herself arrived soon after. She was imposing, tall, and deadly in appearance. Her armor gleamed under the twin suns, and a long sword rested at her hip. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, immediately fell upon the human. She raised a brow. This is our warrior? She asked, her voice calm but edged with steel. Yes, princess, the official replied. Human representative. Aaron. Lysera stepped closer, scanning him with an almost predatory gaze. He looks small. Wait, how is this acceptable? The human swallowed and forced a polite bow. I will do my best, princess, he said quietly. Lysera's lips curled slightly in what might have been amusement or disdain. She had expected someone strong, someone trained in battle, someone who could face death without hesitation. Instead, she saw a man who looked like he might faint at the first sign of danger. The first trial began immediately. Lysera led him to the training grounds, where warriors clashed and practiced duels. Aaron watched carefully, stepping lightly behind her, trying not to be in the way of the heavy blows and roaring beasts. His hands shook slightly as he held a small staff the officials had reluctantly given him. It was hardly a weapon, more a stick than anything else. Stand straight, Lysera instructed, eyes narrowing. You will need more than luck to survive here. Aaron nodded, trying to mimic the stance of the warriors around him. The others were huge, intimidating, moving with the confidence of creatures born to fight. They sneered at him, whispering jokes and insults he could not fully understand. One warrior laughed loudly, twirling a sword easily as if it weighed nothing. "This human? He will die before the sun sets," the warrior said. Aaron's heart pounded, but he refused to show fear. He took a deep breath and observed everything carefully. He watched the movements of the soldiers, the way the beasts moved, the patterns of attacks and defenses. He began to notice small things: the timing of strikes, the gaps in armor, the predictable reactions of the creatures. His mind, trained in cataloging logic and observation, began analyzing the battlefield in ways the warriors had never considered. Lysra noticed it too. "He's watching," she said quietly. "Not panicking. Analyzing. Interesting." The day passed slowly. Aaron barely moved, but his mind worked faster than anyone could imagine. He memorized patterns, took mental notes, and even suggested small adjustments to Lysra when they sparred together. She was skeptical at first but could not deny that his observations were accurate. As night fell, the twin suns dipped behind the horizon and the ground cooled. Aaron sat quietly, exhausted from the mental strain, while Lysra stood nearby, contemplating the day. "Perhaps this human is not as useless as I thought," she admitted to herself. Aaron did not understand how he could be useful, not in a world built for warriors. Yet he realized one thing: survival would depend not on strength alone, but on intelligence, observation, and calm thinking. The same skills that made him a good librarian might also make him a good ally, maybe even a hero. And as he looked up at the stars over Krilthar, Aaron understood that the impossible request, the one that had sent a human librarian into a world of warriors, might just be his chance to prove that courage came in many forms. In a place that valued muscle and weaponry above all else, a quiet human had arrived, ready to show that the mind could be just as powerful as the sword. And in the shadow of the royal palace, the story of an unlikely champion had begun. The morning sun rose over Krilthar, painting the jagged towers of the royal palace in bright gold. The training grounds below were alive with movement. Warriors clashed with swords, axes, and blasters, their roars echoing across the landscape. Aaron, the human librarian, stood at the edge, holding a simple staff the officials had given him. His fingers gripped it tightly, but he kept his posture calm, trying to match the stance of the seasoned warriors around him. Princess Lysra approached, her long hair catching the sunlight, her armor gleaming with every movement. She was tall, strong, and perfectly trained, a vision of grace and deadly power. When her eyes landed on Aaron, she stopped. Her golden gaze swept over him from head to toe, taking in the way he clutched the staff, the nervous shake in his hands, and the faint trembling of his knees. "You are our warrior?" she asked, her voice cold and sharp. Aaron bowed politely, his glasses sliding down his nose. "I am, Princess. I will do my best." Lysra's lips curled slightly, a mixture of amusement and skepticism. "Your best?" she repeated. "Do you know what it means to survive the trials of Krilthar? To stand beside me in combat? To face death without hesitation?" Aaron swallowed. I do not have experience with combat, Princess. But I can learn and I can think." Lysra's eyes narrowed. Thinking alone would not save him here. The princess led him to the main arena, where warriors clashed under the watchful eyes of the council. The air was thick with smoke and the scent of burning metals, and the ground shook with every strike. Aaron took a careful step forward, trying to remain steady, his mind racing. The first trial began with a combat drill. Warriors were paired off, tested on their speed, strength, and reflexes. Aaron was matched with a young Kriltharian soldier named Torvak, who laughed when he saw him. You are not even armed properly," Torvak said. "I will crush you before the first bell rings." Aaron raised his staff nervously, trying to remember the stance he had seen warriors use. He did not strike immediately. Instead he observed. He watched Torvak's eyes, the way he moved his feet, how his sword was angled, and how he shifted his weight before attacking. When the first bell rang, Torvak lunged. Aaron stepped aside at the last moment, barely avoiding the blade, and held his staff in a defensive position. Torvak attacked again, faster this time. Aaron dodged, stepping carefully, and noticed a small gap in Torvak's armor near the shoulder. Using the staff, he tapped lightly, enough to unbalance Torvak, causing him to stumble. The crowd of warriors and officials gasped. Aaron had not struck with power, but with observation and timing, he had managed a minor victory. Princess Lysra watched silently from the edge of the arena. She had expected the human to fail immediately. Instead, he had survived not through brute strength but through intelligence. She felt a flicker of curiosity. Perhaps there was more to this human than she had assumed. After the drill, Lysra approached Aaron. "You are slow, weak, and untrained. Yet you survived. How?" Aaron adjusted his glasses nervously. I think I observe patterns. Strength is not always about force. Sometimes it is about noticing what others miss." Lysra studied him, intrigued. She had been trained her entire life to judge warriors by muscle, weapon skill, and courage in the face of danger. Yet this human had survived a trial without any of that. He had used his mind instead. Over the next few days, Lysra tested Aaron in small exercises. She watched him dodge, block, and navigate obstacles. At first, he was clumsy, tripping over his own feet and misjudging distances. But slowly he improved. He learned to anticipate movement, to read body language, to make decisions in an instant. The princess began to see a pattern. While he lacked physical strength, he compensated with intelligence and careful observation. Aaron also studied Lysra. He noticed the way she moved, how she held her sword, how she anticipated attacks before they happened. He asked questions quietly, never interrupting, always observing. Over time, the princess found herself answering his questions, explaining the techniques she had learned over years of training. She realized that teaching him made her think more clearly, notice flaws she had ignored, and see the training from a new perspective. One evening, the council announced a simulated trial. It was designed to test both combat and strategy. Aaron and Lysra were paired together. The other warriors sneered at the pairing, certain that the human would fail and embarrass them both. In the simulation, the arena shifted constantly, presenting traps, obstacles, and moving targets. Lysra moved swiftly, striking enemies and avoiding hazards. Aaron followed closely, using his mind to guide her, calling out warnings and noticing patterns she had missed. When a trap triggered, Aaron saw it first and shouted a warning. Lysra barely avoided the falling spikes. For the first time, the warriors around them paused, impressed despite themselves. The human, with no strength or combat skill, had saved the princess from harm using observation and logic. Lysra looked at him, her expression softening. She realized that this human, so ordinary in appearance, possessed qualities that no warrior she had known had: patience, intelligence, and foresight. The trial ended and the council applauded reluctantly. The other warriors grumbled, their pride wounded. Lysra approached Aaron, her eyes studying him carefully. "You are not a warrior in the usual sense," she said quietly. "But you are useful, clever, observant, perhaps even brave in your own way." Aaron felt a small surge of pride. "Thank you, princess. I will continue to do my best." She nodded, and for the first time, a faint smile crossed her lips. She had underestimated him, as had everyone else. And yet, she could not deny that he had qualities that might change the course of the trials to come. Over the next few weeks, Lysra and Aaron trained together. She taught him basic combat moves, while he shared insights about strategy, observation, and anticipation. The other warriors watched in disbelief as the princess and the human formed an unusual partnership. Slowly, they began to realize that strength was not only measured in muscle and weapons. Intelligence, timing, and careful thinking could match even the most skilled fighter. Lysra's respect for Aaron grew. She had spent her life relying on her own strength and training, yet here was a human, quiet and unassuming, who had taught her new ways to survive and fight. And for Aaron, every moment with her was a lesson in courage, skill, and resilience he had never imagined he could learn. By the time the next trial approached, the whispers among the warriors had changed. The human librarian was no longer a joke. He was an enigma, a creature of mind and insight who had survived where others expected him to fail. Lysra stood beside him, confident that together, they could face whatever Krilthar had in store. And in the quiet moments between training and trials, an unspoken bond began to grow, a bond of mutual respect, curiosity, and the recognition that sometimes the smallest and weakest looking among them could hold the greatest power. The princess and the librarian were no longer teacher and student. They were partners. And their story, born from impossible circumstances, was only just beginning. The first light of Krilthar's twin suns shone across the training grounds, revealing a landscape filled with obstacles, traps, and deadly creatures. The trials of Krilthar were infamous throughout the galaxy. They were designed to test not only strength but also courage, intelligence, and teamwork. Every warrior who had ever faced them had either failed or barely survived. And now, a human librarian named Aaron was about to step into the arena. Princess Lysra led him to the starting point, her armor gleaming under the sunlight. She walked with confidence, each step precise, as if she had already mastered the trials by instinct. Aaron followed, clutching his notebook and staff nervously. The human had trained as best he could, learning combat basics and studying patterns, but the reality of what lay ahead was overwhelming. The trials are not only physical, Lysra said, her voice calm but firm. They will test your mind, your patience, and your courage. Pay attention, observe, and think. Strength alone will not save you. Aaron nodded. He knew he did not have the power of a Kriltharian warrior, but he trusted his mind. He had survived this far by careful observation and quick thinking. Perhaps those skills would carry him through the trials. The first challenge was a labyrinth filled with shifting walls, hidden traps, and predatory creatures. Warriors rushed forward, swinging weapons and leaping over gaps. Aaron hesitated at the entrance, taking a deep breath. He observed the labyrinth carefully. He noted the patterns of the walls, the subtle markings that indicated pressure plates, and the movements of the small creatures inside. Instead of rushing in, he led Lysra slowly, pointing out dangers and safe paths. They encountered a trap that triggered spikes from the floor. Lysra jumped back instinctively, but Aaron had already noticed the pressure plate and shouted, "Step to the left. It's safe there." She moved just in time. A creature lunged at them, claws extended. Lysra drew her sword, striking it down, while Aaron used his staff to push it away, giving her an opening. They moved together, their actions synchronized despite their differences. The labyrinth was only the first trial. The second was a test of endurance and combat skill, a gauntlet filled with elemental hazards. Fire, water, and electric fields challenged the warriors, forcing them to react quickly. Lysra moved with precision, cutting through obstacles and avoiding danger. Aaron relied on observation, noting patterns and predicting where hazards would strike next. When a fire trap ignited unexpectedly, he shouted a warning, allowing Lysra to leap to safety. Other warriors struggled. Many were strong and skilled, but they relied solely on strength and reflexes. They underestimated the labyrinth and the traps, falling into pits or being burned by flames. Aaron, small and seemingly weak, survived by thinking ahead and working with Lysra. Together, they navigated the gauntlet, earning quiet respect from the council observing the trials. The third trial tested strategy. Warriors were split into teams and tasked with capturing energy crystals scattered across a field while avoiding automated defenses and rival teams. Most relied on brute force, charging forward without planning. Aaron studied the field carefully. He noted the positions of the crystals, the patterns of the automated defenses, and the tendencies of the rival teams. He whispered instructions to Lysra, "Move to the left. The defenses reset every 6 seconds. If we time it right, we can reach the crystal before they notice." Lysra followed his guidance, trusting his insight. Using careful timing and observation, they avoided traps and captured more crystals than any other team. The other warriors stared in disbelief. The librarian, who had been mocked at the start, was now leading the princess to victory through strategy rather than strength. The fourth trial was a test of diplomacy and intuition. Warriors faced alien species in mock negotiations, required to solve disputes without violence. Most warriors struggled, relying on threats and intimidation. Aaron observed carefully, reading expressions and body language. He noticed subtle cues, a flicker of the eyes, a slight hand movement, a tone of voice that betrayed true intent. When it was his turn, he spoke calmly, addressing the concerns of the aliens, finding common ground, and offering solutions that satisfied all parties. Lysra watched silently, impressed. His calm reasoning and keen observation won the trial, proving that even a human could navigate challenges that were not physical. Finally, the fifth trial combined all the previous challenges. Warriors had to navigate a dangerous course, defeat enemies, solve puzzles, and protect their partners. Lysra and Aaron faced a massive arena filled with traps, automated sentries, and hostile warriors from other teams. Lysra relied on her combat skills, cutting down obstacles and striking with precision. Aaron guided her, noticing patterns and predicting threats. When a massive mechanical beast charged at them, Lysra prepared to fight, but Aaron shouted, "Use the trap. Lead it to the spike field." Lysra hesitated, then followed his suggestion. The beast was trapped, and they moved forward without injury. Every step tested their coordination, trust, and intelligence. By the end of the trials, they emerged victorious. Lysra glanced at Aaron, a new respect in her eyes. "You survived where others would have failed," she said quietly. "Not with strength but with thought, observation, and courage. You may not be a warrior like the others, but you are formidable in your own way." Aaron smiled, exhausted but proud. "Thank you, Princess. I learned from you as much as you may have learned from me. The Council of Krilthar murmured among themselves. Never had a non-warrior completed all 5 trials successfully. Never had a human, small and untrained, navigated challenges designed to break the strongest species. And yet here they were, standing together, Princess and Librarian, proving that intelligence, observation and calm thinking could rival strength and skill. Other warriors began to see Aaron differently. Some still doubted him, but many could not ignore the results. A human, once mocked, had survived trials meant to test the greatest fighters. Lysra and Aaron had formed an unbreakable team, each complementing the other. Her strength, skill and courage combined with his intelligence, observation, and foresight created a bond that could not be ignored. As night fell over Krilthar, the arena emptied, leaving only the 2 of them under the stars. Lysra looked at Aaron thoughtfully. You have proven yourself in ways I did not expect, she said. I misjudged you at first, human. But now I see that you are not weak. You are something rare. Aaron adjusted his glasses, smiling faintly. I only survived because I watched, thought and learned. And because I had you by my side, princess. A silent understanding passed between them. They were no longer just a princess and a librarian. They were a team bound by respect, trust, and the knowledge that survival depended on more than just strength. And as they left the arena, the stars above Krilthar shone brightly, a reminder that even the smallest and seemingly weakest could achieve greatness when courage, intelligence and partnership were combined. The trials of Krilthar had tested them both, and they had passed not just as individuals but together. Their story, once considered impossible, had only just begun. The night on Krilthar was unusually quiet, the twin moons casting pale light over the royal palace and training grounds. The victories of Aaron, the human librarian, in the trials had drawn attention, some admiring, some suspicious. While the council praised his intelligence and his partnership with Princess Lysra, whispers spread among rival factions. Not everyone was happy that a human had proven capable where warriors from the strongest species had failed. Aaron sat in his quarters, hunched over a small desk, reviewing notes he had taken during the trials. Every pattern, every movement, every anomaly was recorded meticulously. His mind worked constantly, analyzing outcomes and predicting potential threats. Despite his successes, he felt uneasy. Something in the air of the palace, a subtle tension among the staff and warriors, suggested that not everyone wanted him to succeed. A soft knock at the door startled him. Lysra entered, her armor removed and replaced with a simpler robe. Her eyes, usually sharp and assessing, now held concern. Aaron, we need to talk, she said quietly. Aaron looked up. Is something wrong, princess? She shook her head. The council has been congratulating us, yes. But I overheard some of the advisors and rival warriors. They are planning something. They want to sabotage the final ceremony to make you fail, and by doing so, to humiliate humanity. Aaron frowned. He had known that his presence would be controversial, but a direct plot to endanger him and the princess was more serious than he had anticipated. Do we know who? He asked. Lysra bit her lip. Not exactly. But I suspect the faction that controls the mercenary teams. They are powerful, cunning, and ruthless. They will not accept a human outshining them in any trial. Aaron stood, adjusting his glasses. Then we prepare. We anticipate their moves, observe patterns, and counter them before they act. Lysra nodded, relief mixing with admiration. I am glad you are with me, human. Your mind may save us both. The next day they began their investigation quietly. Aaron moved through the palace, noting the behavior of advisors, warriors, and servants. Every glance, every hushed conversation, every unusual movement was recorded in his mind. He noticed subtle signs, a guard who lingered too long near the ceremonial chamber, a messenger whose route seemed deliberately altered, and a small group of warriors meeting in secrecy near the outer walls. I have identified several potential threats, Aaron explained to Lysra. We must act before the final ceremony. If we wait, it may be too late. Lysra agreed. She was trained for combat, but Aaron's insight revealed dangers she could not see with strength alone. Together, they planned a series of precautionary steps: surveillance, defensive traps, and diversions designed to expose any hidden enemy. That evening, under the cover of darkness, Aaron and Lysra moved through the palace corridors, silent and careful. The humans' knowledge of patterns allowed them to predict the patrols of guards and the movement of workers. They approached the location where Aaron suspected the faction had gathered. From a shadowed balcony, they observed a group of warriors tampering with equipment intended for the ceremonial arena. They are trying to sabotage the traps, Aaron whispered. If Lysra steps into that area without knowing, it could be fatal. Lysra's eyes narrowed. Then we stop them. Aaron devised a clever plan. Using a simple distraction, he triggered a small alarm in a distant corridor, drawing the warriors away from their task. Lysra moved quickly, disabling the sabotage traps and securing the area. When the faction returned, they found themselves caught in a harmless containment field the palace engineers had installed. The next challenge was even subtler. One advisor, loyal to the rival faction, attempted to poison information about the final ritual. Aaron, noticing the discrepancies in the schedules and instructions, confronted him quietly. Using logic and careful questioning, he uncovered the deception and ensured that the correct information reached Lysra. Over the next days, the human and the princess worked tirelessly. Aaron's mind mapped every potential threat, from hidden spies to dangerous equipment. Lysra used her skill and power to guard him and neutralize any direct danger. Their partnership became seamless. Where Lysra provided strength and action, Aaron provided foresight and strategy. The hidden threat grew desperate. On the eve of the final trial, a small group attempted a direct attack in the palace garden. Lysra and Aaron anticipated it. When the attackers emerged from the shadows, they were met with a coordinated counter. Lysra's sword moved like lightning, striking with precision, while Aaron used his staff and clever positioning to block paths, forcing the assailants into harmless containment nets. The faction had underestimated the human librarian's mind and his partnership with the princess. After the confrontation, the palace council convened in emergency session. Many were impressed by the human's insight and the princess's skill, while the rival faction had been publicly exposed. Lysra stood tall, her expression calm but proud. "Let this be a lesson," she said. "Strength alone does not win battles. Strategy, observation, and cooperation are just as vital." Aaron, exhausted but alert, nodded. "We have removed the immediate threats, Princess. But vigilance will be needed during the final ceremony. I will continue to observe and anticipate." The two spent the night preparing. Aaron reviewed every note, every pattern, every possible contingency. Lysra practiced her combat skills, fine-tuning every movement. Though their approach was different, their goal was shared: to survive the final ceremony and prove that humans, no matter how small or untrained in battle, could rise to the challenge. By dawn, the palace was quiet again. The hidden threat had been neutralized and the stage for the final trial was set. Warriors from all corners of Krilthar and the galaxy gathered, expecting spectacle and chaos. Many still doubted the human librarian, whispering behind his back, dismissing his small frame and untrained appearance. But Lysra did not doubt him. She had seen his mind in action, his ability to predict danger, and his courage when facing threats far beyond his physical strength. Together they had uncovered plots, prevented sabotage, and protected themselves in the palace. Aaron felt a quiet confidence he had never known. He was no warrior in the traditional sense, yet he had survived threats that would have destroyed the strongest combatants. The hidden danger had tested not only their skill but their trust in each other. And in that trust they had found something stronger than fear, a bond forged in strategy, courage, and respect. As the sun rose over Krilthar, casting long shadows across the palace, Aaron and Lysra stood side by side, ready to face the final ceremony. The hidden threat had been revealed and defeated, but the ultimate test lay ahead. They knew the trials would demand everything: strength, intelligence, courage, and partnership. And together they would prove that even in a world built for warriors, a human librarian could stand as an equal, outthinking enemies, surviving dangers, and forging a path that no one had anticipated. The final trial was coming, and with it, the chance to rewrite what it meant to be strong. The day of the final ceremony dawned bright and clear on Krilthar. The arena, vast and imposing, stretched as far as the eye could see. Thousands of spectators from across the galaxy had gathered to witness the marriage trial, a test of skill, courage, and survival. Warriors polished their armor, sharpened their weapons, and prepared themselves for the ultimate challenge. Among them stood Princess Lysra, her golden armor glinting in the sunlight, and beside her Aaron, the human librarian, clutching his simple staff and notebook, calm despite the immense pressure. The Council of Krilthar announced the start of the trial. Massive gates opened, revealing a maze of obstacles, traps, and hostile creatures. The first challenge required participants to navigate shifting platforms suspended above lava pools, where a single misstep meant instant defeat. Many warriors charged forward confidently, relying on their strength and skill. Aaron paused, studying the layout. He noticed subtle signs in the platform's movements: tiny grooves, marks, and patterns that indicated timing. "Princess, wait here for a moment," he whispered. "If we step too soon, the platform will collapse. Watch the sequence and follow my lead." Lysra hesitated for a moment, then nodded. She had learned to trust him even when his methods seemed unusual. Step by step they moved across the platforms. Aaron called out warnings, pointing out weaknesses in the structure. When a platform tilted dangerously, Lysra leapt just in time, guided by his calm observation. Other warriors struggled, falling or being forced back. The audience gasped, amazed by the careful coordination of the small human and the princess. Next came a field filled with aggressive creatures, massive beasts with armored hides and sharp claws. Most warriors attacked directly, swinging swords and firing blasters, but Aaron had a different idea. "We don't need to fight them all," he whispered. "Watch their movement. They follow predictable paths. We can avoid the danger instead of confronting it." Lysra hesitated, then followed his advice. They moved strategically, dodging and weaving between the creatures. When a creature blocked their path, Aaron used his staff to trigger a small trap nearby, sending it in another direction. The strategy worked. While others fought and struggled, they progressed steadily, earning quiet awe from the watching crowd. The third challenge combined combat, puzzles, and strategy. Warriors had to retrieve energy crystals while avoiding traps and rival teams. Aaron observed everything: the timing of traps, the patterns of opponents, the safest routes. "Take the left path," he instructed Lysra. "The trap resets every 5 seconds, and the other team will be distracted by the right." Lysra followed, striking swiftly when necessary but relying on Aaron's guidance. They collected crystals efficiently while others were slowed by mistakes or direct confrontations. Every time danger approached, Aaron anticipated it, calling out instructions that kept them safe. As the trial continued, a group of rogue warriors attempted to ambush them. Lysra drew her sword immediately, prepared to strike, but Aaron had already assessed the situation. "Lead them toward the narrow corridor. They can't use their numbers effectively there." Lysra moved as instructed. The warriors fell into the trap, unable to maneuver, and were quickly subdued by palace guards monitoring the trial. The audience erupted in cheers. The princess and the human librarian had not only survived, they had outsmarted opponents and overcome challenges that many believed only elite warriors could handle. The final stage of the ceremony was the most dangerous. A massive mechanical beast, programmed to defeat even the strongest participants, was released. It towered above them, with claws capable of crushing stone and eyes that fired deadly lasers. Many warriors froze in fear or charged recklessly, only to be struck down. Aaron studied the beast carefully. "Its movements are mechanical, predictable," he whispered. "We can use the arena itself against it. Watch me and follow exactly." He led Lysra through a series of maneuvers, dodging its attacks and guiding it toward a trap he had noted earlier, a deep pit reinforced with energy restraints. Lysra struck when necessary, keeping the beast on course. Aaron's timing was perfect, and with one final push the beast fell into the trap, incapacitated. The arena fell silent for a moment, then erupted in stunned applause. Lysra turned to Aaron, her expression a mixture of awe and gratitude. "I misjudged you, human. You are not a warrior in the traditional sense, yet you have outdone every trained fighter here. You are extraordinary." Aaron adjusted his glasses, exhausted but smiling faintly. "I only survived by observing, thinking, and working with you, princess. Strength alone is not enough. Strategy, timing, and trust can overcome even the greatest challenges." The Council of Krilthar convened to announce the results. Whispers filled the arena as they spoke. Never before has a non-warrior completed the trials successfully. Never before has a human, or anyone so underestimated, outshined the mightiest warriors of our galaxy. The champion is Aaron, the human librarian, and his partner, Princess Lysra. The crowd erupted in a mixture of disbelief and awe. Warriors who had mocked him now bowed respectfully. Lysra's eyes glimmered with pride. She had seen the human's mind at work, guiding them through dangers that could have killed the strongest fighters. As the ceremony concluded, Aaron was lifted onto a pedestal beside the princess. He looked out over the crowd, feeling a sense of accomplishment he had never imagined. A simple librarian, untrained in battle, had become the champion of Krilthar. His intelligence, observation, and courage had proven that even the smallest and most unassuming could achieve greatness. The celebration lasted long into the night. Delegates from other planets approached him with questions and admiration. Warriors sought his insight. Even Lysra, usually reserved, laughed and spoke freely, acknowledging that she had learned as much from him as he had from her. Aaron realized that his journey had changed him. He had arrived on Krilthar as a quiet librarian, uncertain and nervous. Now he stood as a hero recognized not for brute strength, but for intellect, observation and courage. He had survived trials meant for the strongest beings in the galaxy, all while maintaining his unique human qualities. Lysra approached him as the festivities continued. "You have done more than survive, Aaron. You have changed how this world sees humans. You have shown that intelligence, foresight and calm courage can surpass strength. You are an unlikely champion, and yet, you are the truest warrior I have ever known." Aaron smiled, feeling warmth he had never expected. "Thank you, Princess. I could not have done it without your trust and skill. Together we proved that strength comes in many forms." That night, as the twin moons of Krilthar rose high above the palace, Aaron and Lysra looked out over the arena. The trials were over. The hidden threats had been overcome. The impossible had been achieved. A human librarian, underestimated and doubted, had become the champion of a world built for warriors. And in that moment, Aaron understood something profound. Heroism was not about muscle, weapons, or birthright. It was about courage, intelligence, observation, and the willingness to stand beside those who believed in you. The story of the unlikely champion of Krilthar spread across the galaxy, inspiring humans and aliens alike. Strength and skill were respected, but cleverness, foresight, and determination were celebrated too. Aaron, the human librarian, had rewritten the rules of what it meant to survive, and to win. And together, he and Princess Lysra prepared for the future, knowing that the greatest victories came not from fighting alone, but from trust, partnership, and the courage to face the impossible.